Everyone, it's John. I'm trying a new format today. I'm recording video live from my office rather than setting up a keynote sketch and importing from that with the slides and all that fun stuff. The reason I'm doing that is because I've had to change my plans a little bit. My original plan for episode 3 was because we've been discussing, why theology is important and why sound doctrine is important. I wanted to go ahead and talk about what do you do when you have doctrinal disagreements. But a conversation I had last week has got me rethinking that strategy. I feel like there's a missing piece that I need to cover first, and I felt like just having a quick discussion about it would probably be the easiest way to do that. So that's what we're going to do for episode 3, and then next week for episode 4, we'll talk about the dealing with doctrinal disagreements of various degrees of severity, and how to tell apart which is what's a big enough deal that you need to divide over, what's a big enough deal to determine who is and who is not a Christian, things like that. But anyway, so this conversation I had, I was having a discussion on Facebook, because that's where all of these types of discussions happen nowadays. I was having this discussion with a former high school classmate. We weren't like good friends in high school or anything, but we've gotten to know each other a little bit on Facebook, and she is a really thoughtful person, and she is not a believer. She's not a Christian, and at least I'm pretty sure that's the way that she would describe herself. But she's a really thoughtful person, and I enjoy having conversations with her. And so we were having this conversation, and she said something about, my truth differs from your truth. It was on an issue, I believe it was on the issue of whether God exists or not. So I guess that would answer the whether or not she's a Christian question. So, my first impulse, because I used to be a philosophy teacher, and so this whole idea of truth is relative to everyone, I just don't think that that's philosophically tenable. I don't think that idea works in real life. So I was going to kind of jump on that, and then I step back for a minute, and I'm like, wait a minute. The person that I'm talking to here is an intelligent person. She's thoughtful. She's not just blindly swallowing everything that comes along. So I think what we had here was a disagreement about how we're using our terms. So I wrote her a note, and I asked her, I said, it sounds to me like you're using truth here in the sense of a deep personally, a deep held belief. Am I right? Is that how you're using the term? And she wrote back, she's like, yes, you've got it. I'm like, okay, I know where the misunderstanding is here. The problem is that the way you're using the term truth is not the way that I'm using the term truth. And I think that that's a very common thing in our society today. And we need to recognize that we do tend to use the word truth in two very different ways. So if we're going to make any progress, we need to have an understanding of what kind of truth are you talking about in conversation. So there are two kinds of truth out there. There is what is called subjective truth, and there is what is called objective truth. The best illustration of this I've ever heard came from a video that theologian R.C. Sproul did many years ago. And back when I was a youth pastor, I showed this to the teenagers in my group, and it was really helpful. He describes the two types of truth as ice cream truth and jelly bean truth. Let me explain what he means by that. Ice cream truth is like asking, what is the best flavor of ice cream? Well, there are going to be different opinions based on people's preferences. Some people say that vanilla is the best flavor of ice cream. Some people say that chocolate is the best flavor of ice cream. Some people say that coffee ice cream is the best flavor of ice cream. I think they're actually getting closer to the truth there. But the idea is that we all have a deeply held opinion on this, but you can't really say that somebody else is wrong just because their opinion differs from yours. That kind of question, what's the best flavor of ice cream, is a kind of truth that varies from person to person. It's subjective. It depends on the subject. Depends on who you're asking. Now, the other kind of truth would be what Sproul called jelly bean truth. Jelly bean truth is you've got a jar and it has it has a certain number of jelly beans in it, and your job is to guess how many jelly beans are in the jar. Now, it doesn't matter if all of us come up with the same answer. It may be right, it may be wrong. We may all come up with the same answer, we may all come up with different answers, but the fact remains that there is only one correct answer. The answer to the question, how many jelly beans are in the jar, is not a subjective question. It's an objective question. It's a question of how many jelly beans, if you physically count them, are in the jar. And it doesn't matter, if everybody thinks that there's 1,000 jelly beans in the jar and there are really only 125, popular opinion has no sway here. Truth is truth, and it's true no matter who's guessing. Okay? So there are objective truths in the world, and there are subjective truths in the world. Now, the question we have to ask as we're studying theology is this: are the things that we are stating about God, such as He exists, God exists as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ is fully man and fully God, Jesus Christ rose from the dead, those are truths of either one kind or the other. They're either objective truths, jelly bean truths, or they're ice cream truths. They're subjective truths, and the truth of that varies from person to person. And in order for us to have any kind of real communication on this, we need to understand that those kind of questions are questions of objective truth, not subjective truth. Objective truth means that the statement is either true or false. There is a right answer. So if my friend says, my truth is that there is no God, and your truth is that there is a God, we have a problem because we're mixing up our categories. We're treating the question like it's a question of subjective truth, but it's really not subjective at all. There either exists a being named God, or called God, or there is no such being. And whether or not we believe such a being exists has no bearing whatsoever on whether that being does in fact exist. It's an objective truth. It's either true for everyone or it's false for everyone. And what we believe about the question is irrelevant to the truth or falsehood of the statement. Okay? So as we do theology, we are dealing with questions of objective truth. Either God exists or He does not. What God is like is a question of objective truth. You may have an opinion about the matter, and I may have an opinion about the matter, but our opinions do not determine what is true and what is false. And it's important that we understand that, because if we don't understand that, we're never going to be able to handle disagreements about such matters properly. So, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next time. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and go to theologycrashcourse.com and sign up on the mailing list. I am giving away some books at the end of the month, including a brand new Systematic Theology ESV Study Bible, and a biography of Martin Luther, which seems appropriate given that this month is the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation. So make sure you're on the mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list, you are not eligible to win. So please sign up today, and thanks for watching.